Welcome back to the Lights Out Podcast. I am the MMA Detective, Mike Davis. In this episode, number 2 of the Gerald Strebendt Rafiel Torre murder tapes, what we have here is Gerald Strebendt walking up to the line and eventually hoping that he crosses it. We're taking you to the very beginning on how this case started. This is an instance that I myself am actually very familiar with. Answering the phone, a cold call in regards to somebody that may or may not have information. This is incredibly important when starting a case. Afterward, we will do a complete breakdown of what you just listened to.
Hi, Detective Tom. I'm calling in regards to a guy that was murdered up there. His name's Brian Richardson. And I'm trying to find out if there's any kind of information, like a flyer or a website or anything that tells the developments of the case and discusses, like where to call for reward information and stuff like that.
I'm not sure if there's a flyer on the Sheriff's Department's website. There may be.
Okay.
You can always call 1-800-WE-TIP, or I think it's 1-800-78-CRIME, and provide any information that you may have. There may be a small reward available. I'm not exactly sure. I know that the family's working on some things, and I know that WE-TIP has things available too.
Okay, but so you basically would call these hotlines and give them any information you have, and then wait for them to contact you back if there's a reward?
Well, one of the things about that is most of it, like WE-TIP, you can remain anonymous. If you want to remain anonymous, but obviously when you remain anonymous, they don't know who you are.
For sure.
Or you could talk to us. We're the one of the investigators investigating the crime.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, how touchy all these things are. You know what I mean? You know how touchy it is. Like, let's say, if a suspect, finds out that someone is talking with the police, and if the guy's already, been accused of doing, a homicide, then that puts whoever, is calling or looking into, working with the police, that puts them at a huge risk. You know what I mean?
Well, I can tell you how we operate. We don't release any of that information to anyone. As a matter of fact, we can even keep it confidential until the very last absolute minute.
Yeah, but what if, for sure, if somebody was to have, important information, then that they would have to go to court and testify to that,
Well, that's true.
And then they would be standing in front of a person, that perhaps they've known for a long time, and perhaps, that person has a lot of influential friends, you know what I mean? So
right.
I just need to know more information so I can, pass it along to my friend. And the last thing, somebody wants to do is get themselves killed, you know what I mean?
Well, I can understand that. I can answer a lot of those questions for you, but I can tell you, like you said, bottom line is ultimately, even if there is a reward involved, in order to get that reward, it's upon successful conviction and prosecution.
Yeah.
Part of that requires a testimony of a person if they have, in fact, got sufficient information.
Sure.
The other thing,
and that testimony, requires more than like a $2,000 reward for someone to put their neck out,
Sure.
I mean, because for sure this is not like a stolen car issue, This
No, murder.
Exactly. So if somebody's to stand up in front of a jury, and have a defendant sitting there that, is accused of something like this, this is just not something they can, that's not even worth $2,000 to have a chance of ending up the same way.
Well, my understanding is the family's trying to come up with a significant amount of money, but I'm not sure how much.
Okay. What's your name, Miss Tom?
Detective Toms, T-O-M-S.
T-O-M-S?
Yeah.
Well, I'm living out here in L.A. right now, and it would be great if you and I could get together,
okay.
And in like a non-official way and talk about, the situation, talk about things.
Okay.
Because if, the last thing I want is to feel like there's any pressure on me, like I'm gonna, like I'm gonna be on the receiving end of some, whatever happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
completely.
And I know that might sound cowardly, but I don't want to end up the same way.
I understand
a long
that.
life ahead of me.
Right, I understand that.
And I do have a heavy conscience, so it's wrong what happened,
I agree completely.
So if you and I were to be able to sit down and talk in an unofficial way, without recorders, without anybody, maybe, I don't know if you could, I don't have a car, I don't have anything. Maybe if you were able to drive down here to L.A. and we could meet somewhere in some park or something and just discuss the situation. And, I would really like to help you. I would really, really like to help you. And I'm not, I wouldn't call and waste your time with some bullshit stuff that I heard from a drunk dude at a party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I have you drive all the way down here to L.A., It's a pretty serious thing.
Well, let me tell you this. My partner and I work this. I don't know if there's another detective named Carl Mendoza. Would probably be both of us because we don't do anything like that as one man. I can tell you we could definitely sit down without any recorders and anything like that, and I can explain everything to you in great detail, exactly how it would work. No hiding anything. I mean, like you said, there's a lot at stake here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. And if for some reason somebody up in Rancho Cucamonga was to know you're coming down here to LA to talk to somebody, right away someone's going to know who the fuck you're talking to. You know what I mean? So,
right. Okay.
So it's the slightest hint that
absolutely not.
Then I'm going to have to put my tail between my legs. At the slightest hint that I'm going to be, exposed, I just absolutely can't risk that.
I understand. Well, let me tell you honestly, I got to ask you something. Would you be willing to give me your name right now so that I can do some checking up on you before I come out and talk to someone who I don't even know who the hell you are, and I don't get ambushed?
Yeah, oh, no, I understand that. But let's say you put my name down, which I don't have a problem with, and for some reason someone tells your number one suspect, hey, we're going to be talking with this guy.
Would never happen.
I'm finished.
I guarantee it would never happen.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
I know, and you sound sincere, you really do. But, I just...
because it wouldn't even go in any type of report.
Okay, well, what kind of, you can do a background check on any, federal, state, or anything. I'm a prior service military guy.
What am I going to do? I'm going to check your criminal history.
Okay, and then I don't want anybody besides you to know my name. Anybody.
Absolutely not.
And I'm serious here. I really want to help you, and I really think that, I know this case is kind of stalled up right now, and nobody has a lot of information that can help you. And I can really, what if I could really help you, and you blow it by my name getting out of the fuck?
Won't happen.
Okay. You ready to write down my name?
Go ahead.
Okay, Gerald.
Gerald? Spell it.
Gerald.
Okay.
Roy is my middle name. R-O-Y. Strebendt.
Spell it.
S-T-R-E-B-E-N-D-T.
B-E-N-D-T?
Yeah, B-E-N-D-T.
What you just heard there was in the most important part of an investigation, the very beginning, when somebody close to a situation that has direct knowledge of the parties involved decide to come forward. The thing that you probably shouldn't really concentrate on is the conversation about the reward. More often than not, a person calling about a reward is somebody that's never been in the system or involved in a murder investigation that's trying to remain anonymous. So more often than not, they put that forward in order to understand the process and the steps needed to be taken to also protect their anonymity. It's really not so much about money. It's just they're fearful for their life. They obviously know the people involved that have already crossed the line of murder, and they're concerned about their own safety. Miguel, it's incredibly brave for somebody to come forward in this aspect. What did you think of the initial response from the police when they picked up the phone?
I think it's funny. It seems like when Gerald calls in and he says, I have a question about this, he sounds kind of bored. He's like, well, there might be a flyer on the website. There might be a reward, but I don't know what it is. He seems aloof, but
I can tell you why.
Slowly, it seems like, again, because slowly Gerald starts leaking a little more and more info. And at the end of it, he won't let him off. He wants his name. He's willing to go down. He's not off, he didn't let him off the hook at the end, even though he was ready to cut him off at the beginning.
So a rookie on the phones is going to jump at every single phone call that comes in. This person, you can tell, has had many years on the job and has fielded many of these types of phone calls. So in all honesty, more often than not, it's just somebody that's either BSing, may know some information that's kind of taunting, teasing. Oftentimes it's actually them that may have done the murder and they're kind of fishing for information. So what you have is you've got a board cop saying this is just some friggin' person calling for kicks and jollies. It could be somebody mentally ill. There's more often than not that's the cause of phone calls like this. But if you watch, there's a little bit of a feeling out. If somebody's going to come forth for a murder case, it's never the money. It really isn't the cash. Like if it was the cash, they would have done it right away. It's a disingenuous play on a caller in order to try to either build confidence or suss out information in regards to the case. In this instance, though, you saw the cop as his ears picked up. He kind of understood that the person he was talking to was serious, and he drew a line in the sand.
No, I think he seems serious too, Gerald. You know, I think the thing that comes across too in that conversation is that he's worried. He's worried about scared doesn't come across yet, and that may come in future episodes where he talks about actual fear, you know, and what that might be. But here, that worry is present from the beginning of his conversation. It sets a tone that sucked the cop in or made the cop's antennas go up.
Yeah. So in essence, you've got a guy that's very concerned for his safety and leaks. There are always tons of leaks in an investigation. And at this point, in like mixed martial arts, California, there was a lot of police dabbling in jiu-jitsu and heavily involved. It was a legitimate concern on Gerald's end. So what you saw is a cop going, you know what, man, this guy might be full of crap. Maybe not. He drew a line in the sand and he goes, hey, would you feel comfortable giving me your name? Otherwise, you're in a never-ending loop of playing cat and mouse, and you're looking at like a dozen extra phone calls. So he brought it to a head right away. It's kind of a veteran move in this instance. It's either, all right, if Gerald decides, all right, you know what, this is too much for me, I'm out of here. All the cops got to do is wait a couple months, 4 or 5 months. Gerald would call back again and initiate a second phone call. Rather than do that, he drew a line in the sand, asked for the caller's name, and that's when Gerald committed. When Gerald gave his name and put it forward, that's when you knew he was serious.
And I can continue to tell you that the police officers did drive down to Los Angeles and meet with Gerald the next day. Episode 3 will pick up with the officers and Gerald having met, presenting what they know in a court or in a legal setting to lawyers. So it gets more interesting from here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you. Please like, share, subscribe. If you like this, leave a comment, maybe a thumbs up, review on iTunes, Spotify. Thanks for joining us.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.